Thank you for clicking on this video. My name is Catherine McNulty, and I am the creator and founder of my business, Grief Inspired. At Grief Inspired, my goal is to use what I've learned as I navigated my own grief process to help all of you, and to use practical tools and techniques and things that you can use to take an active approach to your grief and to stop being a victim. So many of us think that we have to be a victim to our grief, and there isn't anything that we can do about it. Well, I don't believe that, because I have done something about it, and you can take an active role in your grief, and there are things you can do to help you through it. And if you're thinking that, we're just going to push away our grief and hopefully let it go, that's not going to happen. I'm sorry to say that you need to deal with your grief. And if you're not dealing with it, you're going to have to eventually. And there's lots of different ways that grief will present itself if you've pushed it down for far too long. Usually it's things like addiction. It's things like anger, depression, anxiety. They'll all present themselves to you as part of the grief process. So I want to encourage you to step into your grief process, dive in, and let's figure this out. So today I want to talk about, like I said, the ebb and flow of your grief. And there are times when, as you're grieving, you start to feel a little bit better. You realize that you have a great day, or you go and you work out, or you have a meeting with somebody or a lunch, and you look back on it and you say, oh my gosh, like that was actually halfway decent. I was a little bit happier than I'm used to being, right? I'm used to being completely miserable. And for that moment, for that hour, for that couple of hours, I actually wasn't miserable. And then you get to a point where you're home and you're alone, and all of the grief comes crashing back on you. And it can be devastating. And you can feel like everything that you've been working toward has just come flying back into your face, and you're just going to be miserable again. And that any of the progress that you've already had has been lost. And it's a natural reaction, because we start out so devastated, and all we can see and all that we know is our grief. And there isn't anything else that we can see, because we can't see beyond it. But as time goes on, you start to process a little bit more and a little bit more. And there are moments where you actually are happy. And that's okay. And that's the process. And it's extra devastating when all those emotions, all of the pain, all of the depression that you feel like maybe you just got through comes back with a vengeance. And, I was talking to somebody, and she said, I feel like I'm a Jekyll and Hyde. Like I'm two different people. Like I'm out 1 minute being happy. I drive 15 minutes home. I close my door, and all of a sudden, all of the emotions come crashing back. And there isn't anything that I can do. I'm a puddle on the floor. And the thing that was so unique about that was that she was really beating herself up about it. And so I wanted to make a video so that you wouldn't beat yourself up about it either. And, sometimes we think that grief is this linear process, that all of a sudden you're going to start feeling better. And once you start feeling better, it's just going to continue to get better. And that's why we're so shocked when all of the waves of emotion come flying back in our face. And it's not fair. And it's so unsettling. And if you've experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. And I just want to tell you that this is the grief process, and that there's a certain part of your mind that will only let you process so much at a time. And it's a self-protective mechanism of your mind. And it's the same reason why early on in your grief, you feel very numb and you can't really feel anything. That's your brain protecting you from what has happened because the grief that you're experiencing is so tragic. So I want you to give yourselves a break and find ways to do what I call massive self-care, right? So find the things that when you're at your deepest, darkest, when those waves crash and hit over you, that you can grab onto and you can say, I know that this makes me feel better. And so I am going to insert time into my schedule to do this today. And if you have to stop everything that you're doing and take the rest of the day off, that's okay. Only do what you need to do and give yourself time to heal and to process. Now, there's different forms of self-care, and the active role and the thing that you need to start thinking about is, what are those things for me? What is it that makes me feel better? So for me personally, I found myself taking baths 2 and 3 times a day because the warm water I found to be really soothing. I love just having the water, from the shower wash over my face. It made me feel better. Massages worked for me as well. Watching my favorite movie over and over and over again. And the funny thing for me is it was Armageddon with Bruce Willis. I love that movie. And, it has the great Aerosmith song in it. And for whatever reason, I laughed and I cried and I felt better. And it was a feel-good movie at the end. And it just worked for me. And when I had a day where I needed to just do nothing but veg on the couch and watch Netflix or whatever it is, I gave myself permission to do that. So I want you to start thinking about, what is it that works for you? I think it's a great idea if you could comment down below, because you actually might help somebody else. It may help them to hear what you do to make yourself feel better. Is it going for a run? Is it going to a dance class? Is it being alone out in nature? There's so many different things. And the goal and the key for you is to find the things that help support you. This is massive self-care. It's time to cut yourself a break. It's time to recognize that what has happened is a tragic. It is a tragedy. It's serious. You are deep in grief, and that's okay because you're going to get through it. And if you use these techniques and you continue to watch my videos, I will do my very best to give you all of the tools and the techniques that worked for me and that have worked for all the clients that I've worked with. My name is Catherine McNulty, and I want you to be grief inspired too. Have a great day and work on your self-care, massive self-care. Bye now.